You're listening to Our Space with Matt Vettese.
Today's guest is from a Philly band that you've most likely had on your 2010s pop punk playlists. They were formerly signed to Fearless, and now they're fearlessly independent and getting ready to drop a bunch of new music this year. I want to welcome Collin of Grayscale. Hey, how's it going, man?
What's up, Matt? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Kind of mentioned the whole 2010s pop punk playlist thing, but that's kind of a different direction that the band seems to be taking with, the last couple of releases that you've sort of been down. Is that the direction you guys are going into, more like an alt rock type of direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say so. I mean, we've always kind of considered ourselves like just a rock band. And I think obviously that community and world is where we cut our teeth, and we super thankful and love. We did the last full Warped Tour, and it was amazing. It was an incredible experience, and we're super thankful for it. And it's been wonderful. But I would say, yeah, we've always kind of just considered Grayscale just a rock band, alternative rock band. So I would say that, yeah, that's a fair assessment for sure.
Yeah. And so how has that sort of, I guess, development sort of been changing with the band in terms of the new songs that you've been releasing? Like, was there a reason why you specifically wanted to kind of branch out within that?
I wouldn't say it's anything that's kind of like premeditated in the sense. It's not, I think it's just kind of naturally how we write our music. Like, you know what I mean? I think has been more of just watering kind of the natural way that we make music together versus kind of, sitting and planning out like, hey, we're going to write music that's more just, alternative rock leaning versus like punk leaning. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely been a natural sort of development, and it's been cool with the music we've been writing recently, especially with all the stuff that we've been writing, because so much of it, I feel like our first full length record, Adornment, that we put out on Fearless was, it was a rock record, punk rock record. And so much of that, I would say the music we're writing now is probably the most guitar oriented rock leaning music we've ever written. And I think a lot of it is, it has that, that first record, like a lot of guitar type things, but it's less punk and more just like kind of bigger alt rock band vibe. So it's sort of full circle in that there's more of a focus. There's so much of a focus of band playing live in a room, like a first record, but just with more tools and a little more skill than we had in 2017 when we put out our first full length record, Adornment. So yeah.
But I think that's also saying a lot, right? Because as a band, you want to continue growing, and this kind of seems the way that Grayscale seems to be growing as humans and as a band, right?
Yeah, totally. I think it's just a matter, like I said, of just kind of naturally, like watering naturally what we want to make as artists, and sort of, so much of our influence has been Zeppelin and Springsteen and like a lot of like those, I mean, Andrew, our guitarists, love like classic rock, and Dallas loved like 80s stuff. Our rhythm guitarist, pianist, vocalist Dallas, and Nick loves like a lot of 90s grunge, and I like all kinds of like 90s and classic rock too. And I think it's just kind of, all of that I think is naturally has kind of bubbled up to the surface as time has went on. Like our last record, Umbra, was very kind of performative and not like theatrical, but it had, I don't know what the right word really is, but it had a lot of piano and strings and choir, and it was very like, big production in that way. And I think when we loved that record, and it was so fun to make, and it was so great creatively to do that. But I think it's been cool kind of, focusing, because we haven't put out a record in 2.5, almost 3 years, so it's been great. When we did this one that we've just been working on, which, Not Afraid to Die and Mum, those two singles have come out already. But, this body of work has been, a lot of kind of revisiting that, writing it in the room together, kind of stripping down the environment a little, and just writing it like as a rock band, like we did in the very beginning, but with, like I said, just more, better gear and better resources around us to kind of do it with.
So it's kind of cool, like, I guess, hearing all of your influences and kind of how they're coming to be and playing a role into what today's Grayscale sound is. What made you want, with such a heavy influence in these things and this sound, I guess, what made you start out in that pop punk world and transition into this? And I guess, why didn't you just start out doing this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really think I don't think it was ever like chosen like this is the we want to be in the pop punk world. I think it's just sort of the types of tours and label and the scene that we just kind of naturally went into. I think it was just kind of something that happened. Like we were a punk band that played rock band that played in Philly, and that's just kind of just was the natural order of how things like started for us, and we're super thankful for it. But yeah, I don't think. I just think that's just kind of naturally what came out of us, and that's like, it's a really great thing that we've always written music that's very truthful to who we are, and make bodies of work that are very truthful and honest to like what is going on at the time and who we are at the time as people and musicians. And that's something like we're very proud of. I think honestly, part of it too, like the music we're writing now, like Not Afraid to Die, as an example, the first single we put out like sometime late last year, we wrote so much of that and recorded so much of it live in a room, like all together, like an old school band would record, which sounds ridiculous, like crazy to say, but I think that's something that maybe, in our first record, we weren't good enough to do that truthfully, you know what I mean? To be able to capture that all at once. And, obviously you punch in and get better takes and stuff and whatever, but I think that like kind of full live band magic and being able to really lean on the performance as much as we do now, which is so much of what we love about rock and roll, is like something that took years to be able to do,
It sounds like you were just having fun back then, putting your, heart on your sleeve, writing music and just kind of doing that. And now that you've been doing it for a while and, you've gotten that experience, you get to still have that fun, but almost in a more professional way, it sounds like.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, is like, yeah, like you do, second record, third record, you have more exposure to different, you put in, like we kind of took the route of it. There was more sort of pop production in our second record. And then third one, we had a lot of strings and more pop production and choir, like I mentioned, but it's kind of cool now going back, and it's not like we're doing anything. It's not like we're removing a bunch of things, but it's like, oh, let's use a lot of like analog synths. Let's really sit and play them. And let's just use these three and find the right sound versus an entire library in the computer, clicking around, finding all kinds of stuff. So it was a really cool experience to set the entire studio up, like keep the drums set up, keep the synths set up on certain settings and actually play everything and capture it. And just got that warmth, like band in a room vibe. And that's something that, exactly to your point, it's sort of this full circle thing where you're back to being a teenager playing songs with your friends in a room, but now it's like you get to do it in a cool studio with cool, like old school vintage gear and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been wonderful for sure.
So let's talk about some of the new music that you have out this year. So you've already released your first song of 2024. It seems like there's a lot more on the way. Is it going to be an EP or an album?
It'll be an album, and I don't unfortunately have a date for it yet, but we finished recording a full album, that Not Afraid to Die and Mum 2. Those two songs are both part of, they'll both be on that record. Yeah.
Now, emotionally and lyrically, these are both pretty heavy songs. Is that the overall vibe of the album? Is it going to be like a lyrically and emotionally heavy album, or what's the overall vibe of the album?
Yeah, I would say so. I definitely think so much of the overall vibe is, our last record, Umbra, the majority of it was written before COVID sort of went into full lockdown swing. Some of it we were finishing up and we recorded it during that time. But I think kind of after that, we had a lot of time. Everybody did. And beyond, we were spending a lot of time writing music together. And it was this process of kind of uncovering like we want to just, we're literally physically, stuck and can't go on the road. We can't do anything like that. So let's just like spend a lot of time writing and like really, doing our thing and being with each other. And I think from that blossomed this feeling of like, I want to write about, we've been home for so long and there's so much that like, I think everybody did a lot of thinking and processing and
A lot of
reconnecting.
reflection.
A lot of reflection. I think a lot of that reflection resulted in a record that's so much about, the way I grew up, the way we grew up being like, people in like Irish Catholic and Italian Catholic families and, the Northeast, like in Philadelphia, and the way people are in Philadelphia, why we're the way we are, why our families are the way we are. And I think how we grew up, who we grew up with. So I think there was this big inspiration for me lyrically to sort of, focus on that in a way that we never had before. And I think so much of the record is storytelling oriented. And I think you can hear that in Not Afraid to Die and Mum Too, both. Not Afraid to Die, I think, is a good example of like a lot of the feel of what the record's going to be. It's, this, like, as far as, I wouldn't say not every single song, but I think the overarching theme of like, this is who we are, this is where we're from, here are some stories, like very raw. That's a lot of, I would say, like what the vibe is for sure.
So what's the story between Not Afraid to Die?
So I think that was actually one of the first songs when we started writing, and this was probably over a year and a half ago, 2 years plus, like probably towards the tail end of COVID, like I said, where we kind of started a little bit of the process, but of what eventually became this record. But we really took our time, like I said, but Not Afraid to Die was early in the process. And I think it was one of the most formidable, songs for this album, because we wrote it and it kind of was exactly what we wanted, right? Like you do demos and you do writing sessions, whatever, and you demo stuff out at home and you get some good things and something to go, this could make the record, this might not, whatever. But Not Afraid to Die was one that after we wrote it, we were like, this is what we've been trying to say. This is what we want it to feel like. And so much of that song is just about like, I mean, that's right. I think that song is the most probably dead center on the nose, like thematically what the record feels like. It's exactly what I said of like who we are and where we're from and why we're the way we are and all that. And I love that song. It was so fun to make. Like I said, we cut so much of it live all at the same time in the room. But yeah, I mean, just lyrically, it's just talking about how we grew up and who we are and the good things, the bad things. I think there's so much about Philadelphia and the Northeast, cities like that. Philly specifically has such a personality and it's so ridiculous. And the people, it's just, you see those clips. I mean, there's a lot of cities that, post stuff like that, but you see like news clips from Philly of like, I feel like Florida gets a bad rap too of like crazy shit going on, but Philly, I feel like it rivals Florida or as a state, like just as far as like the insane shit and, just the crazy sports fandom and just the neighborhoods and the families that have been there for so many generations and will, haven't moved. It's the same families in the same homes and all that stuff. So I think it's just touching on all that. It's all of that and more, the good and the bad and the ugly, for sure.
I've never been to Philly, but it sounds like it has character.
It has a lot of character, a lot of history, a lot of art. It's an amazing place. I would make the argument it's like some of the best food in America. Like it's good people, like funny people. It's a city of brotherly love for a reason. It's like it's the kind of people where it's just like, you give each other shit on the street, but like out of love. Like it's just like a very like in your face, but looking out for each other, like diehard sports fan, like heart on your sleeve type place, like blue collar city. And we're very proud to be from there. And I wanted to put that into the music. We've always like rode with Philadelphia and we've touched on it in plenty of other songs and, talked about it and whatever, in other ways, press, whatever. But, this record really leans into not just like Philly, but also like the countryside where we're from and just, a lot of, on a more serious note, like a lot of, the time looking back and facing trauma of growing up and facing like, like actual serious things that we went through and whether that's a result of being from this area or not, but it kind of touches on the funny stuff and the serious stuff all at once.
You write a lot of themes, a lot of, the themes in your lyrics to kind of have a lot of hints of Ireland in there,
Yeah.
That sounds really personal. Is that had just had a huge impact and being in Ireland had a huge impact on you?
Yeah, I would say so. Like my family's very traditionally like Irish Catholic. I lived in County Clare, Ireland for 2 years when I was young. And I think so much of, if you live in Philly, like your friends are either Italian or Irish. It's like a whole city of like 50-50, and somebody's mom's Italian, somebody's mom's Irish, or you get like Dallas and I are both Irish, like both parents. Nick and Andrew are 1-1, and you know, one Italian, one Irish, and Dal and I are purebreds. So it's like that's probably not the politically correct way to say it. So I don't know if we should keep that in here, but you know what I mean. Like that's just the vibe. So I think, I mean, both nodding at like culturally, like what it's like being from that kind of family in the Northeast is one, but then also in Mum specifically, literally saying like Ireland Parks is like a memory I have when I lived in County Clare. My mom went and I would go, you know, driving and chasing rainbows because we were so bored because all it did was rain every day. And my dad was out working, so my mom and I would drive around, and when I was a kid, and we'd chase rainbows. We never found the pot of gold at the end, but we drove around a lot looking for them, kill time, and you know, like it's just like the parks and like the scenery and stuff there in the countryside was so beautiful and impactful for me as an adult. It still is, for sure.
Getting super cheesy, it's the journey along the way that was the pot of gold, you know, the fun, the memories. That's the pot of gold, buddy.
That's right. Exactly what I was thinking. You beat me to it.
You know, with Mum 2 being your most recent releases of this conversation, this song, it's gut wrenching, right? Like listening to the song, it is gut wrenching. It sounds like it's an apology for Mum. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
The first song?
Yeah, I would say that. I think it's this combination of like, I just found myself like, it just stopped like feeling good playing that song. We kind of stopped. I kind of like said to the guys like over the years, like, I don't want to play this anymore because I think I spent so much time sort of trying to fix things and help my mom, who was in a really dark and difficult place for a very long time. And I think through that, you know, I think the humbling and the empathy and all of those things and working through forgiveness and working through a lot of those emotions, I think over time, it was like, it did feel like, you know, it felt bad. It felt bad to play it, you know, and it felt eventually outdated when a lot of the work was being put in, her on herself, me on myself, but her and I together in our relationship, and what, you know, me kind of understanding what she had been through and what she was working through, and, you know, all of that, and finding a way to really be there and help and be helpful and, you know, give her love, you know, and everything. And I think it is an apology. Mum 2, I would say, like, is an apology for Mum 1, but also an acknowledgement of like, this was the journey, and like, here's where it landed. And like, I want to write something that reflects this ending properly. You know what I mean? And yeah, we're really proud of it. It was the weirdest thing, honestly. There's so many, like, sometimes you write songs and they take weeks or months and you're coming back and you're banging your head against the wall. But that was the strangest songwriting experience that we've ever had in our career as a band, the four of us. And, you know, we've been friends. We were 13, 14 years old writing music, like whether it was just, you know, basement, punk rock, whatever, that eventually, you know, then we eventually signed a record deal, whatever. But like, even back then, it was like, since then, we've never had a song come so quickly. I think it was such a strange thing. We talk about it all the time, like when the song comes up, but like, we had like 90% of it written in, like, I'm not kidding, like 45 minutes. Wow. Which is so odd, dude, because none of our music has ever been, it's always like days of like, you spend a whole day writing, and it's like, by the end of it, you have a guitar hook and maybe like a blah, blah vocal, not really words yet. But that song, like, I had the whole thing written out and all these things I wanted to say and all these like lyrics, words, whatever, like a letter almost. And the guy just got it in this pocket of what the kind of the chorus, like that giddy up kind of vibe of like the second chorus. And we just rode that through, and I just kept like throwing down these lines, and picking out parts of like my journal and everything. And it happened so naturally and so quickly. And it was the strangest thing to have a song almost completed in like an hour or maybe less. It was bizarre. And it was one of those moments where I was like, you know, it felt like, it's why you write music. It's why I love it so much. It's like that stuff. It's like, it doesn't happen all the time. And when it does, it's such an important song to all of us. Cause it's like, like I said, we've been friends since we were kids. So it's like, they know every step of that story. they've been there through every step of that story, good, bad, ugly, all of it. So it's like, everybody felt it. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like just me lyrically, like everybody was in it so much. So yeah, very, very proud of it. And, it was so healing in so many ways and cathartic. And yeah.
It really sounds like you've grown so much, not just as a band, but like as people as well. And we're starting to really hear that kind of come out in the music as well.
Totally, man. I think that, and that's so much of like why it's like, hey, well, let's remove a lot of, let's not do everything in the computer one take at a time, even though we have the ability to do that. And, second, third record, especially like recording it in a more traditional 2024 way. But we were like, that honest, like that earnestness and like organic feeling, like all that, to your point, exactly, kind of touching back on what we were saying. It's like, I think that's why we were so deliberate with writing together in a room, writing about like where we're from, facing, really like digging into things as you get older about who you are as a person, why you're the way you are, who you're with. I think naturally the sound of it being, Not Afraid to Die being recorded in the room and organically, and like Mom, like there's like the takes, there's a take in the second verse where like I started like choking up, and I stopped, and our producer's like, I need you to just sing through it. Like, just keep singing through it. And I was like, dude, I can't. And he pushed me to. So if you listen to that second verse, it was like, I was super uncomfortable with it at first, but I was like, as I sat with it, I was like, you can hear me like very, very clearly kind of breaking up and not being able to like get through the words. And it was it was the hardest song I've ever sang through. I had to stop so many times because it was just like difficult. It was painful. And I feel like, that's part of the whole feeling of it though. And I realized that after was like, that should be the take that stays,
Yeah. I mean, as a listener, I sit there and I listen to the song with my headphones on, and I hear the emotion in your voice, which is why I say it's such a gut wrenching song. Like, you can sit there and listen to the lyrics and the call back to, Mum One, and hearing that and hearing the development from, the lyrics into the song, but like just the emotion that you're conveying in your voice. I'm really happy that you took that route because, like I said, as a listener, I'm hearing that. So it's actually really cool to hear your side of that, of knowing that was something that was really hard for you to put the emotion into that take, and that your producer just pushed you into doing that.
Yeah, totally. And I think good producers do that, right? It's like they make you better, and 100%. I mean, I'm glad it translated, and it was such an important song to me and us as a band. And I know it's impacted a lot of our fans, especially the OG fans that like know the first record well and kind of know what the story's touching on. And, it feels cool because as time went on, there were definitely people like, why don't you play this anymore? Why don't you play this? And I felt like I just like articulate things better through music. So I'm thankful that like I kind of answered those questions too in a way. And
well, now with this song coming out, if you're, I guess, reasonable minded, you would assume you guys are never playing Mum One ever again. Like I hear Mum Two, and I assume when I come see Grayscale, I'm probably not going to hear Mum. Is that fair to say?
I think yes, I would say so.
Is there a chance we would hear it?
I don't know. I think to me, man, it's just like this is Mum. This is what it is now. And this is like, it was such a personal thing, and still is. There is still so much healing to do, but I think it's just like, that's what I need it to be. You know what I mean? I need it to be this version now as a person,
Yeah.
And I think that's, Grayscale fans are so diehard, and it's dope, and we're very thankful for it. And it's always been that way. And it's like, I think they get that, and I'd like to imagine they back that and get it. So I don't really see a version where we play the first one ever again, to be honest. And I'm happy to hang that up. I think that's like, I feel really good about that. Like, that feels like a good thing to me.
Well, like you said, this is Mum now.
Right.
That I think that's really, so when you're playing Mum, this is the version that you're playing, because this is the honest version of that song, which I think that's just absolutely so powerful.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
With these songs, of course, album coming, we don't have an official date in stone, but what we do have is an upcoming tour. We know this summer you're touring with Boys Like Girls. What are you most excited about for this particular tour?
Yeah, so it's interesting markets. It's a lot of like I feel like I look like when we got through routing, I was like, dude, half of this tour is like North and South Carolina. I was like, what is going? Because normally it's like you do the normal A market. Like I think sometimes you might hit Durham or like Charlotte. Like or it's usually like one. It's like Durham or Charlotte or Charleston. It's not like I feel like we don't. We've done them, but like we've never done 2 or 3 North Carolina dates in one, and like Myrtle Beach and Pensacola, like a lot of them are kind of Knoxville. You normally do Nashville, not Knoxville, that kind of thing. So there's I think a lot of those are first time markets for us, to be honest. And I'm really excited for that. I like Boys Like Girls. I didn't listen to them truthfully a ton growing up, but the singer Martin has a project called The Night Game. I don't know how familiar with it, but that's like one of my favorite projects ever. And I have a lot of mutual friends with Martin. Yeah. So our guitarist Andrew went to see John Mayer. He's a diehard John Mayer fan. And The Night Game opened that tour. And he's like, you guys gotta check out this band. They opened for John Mayer. They're absolutely ridiculous, like so amazing. It's like 80s. It's so sick. I'm like, cool. And he showed me the song The Outfield, which is like one of their singles from their first record. I was like, holy shit, I haven't heard anything like this good. And so like, I love this. And our whole Grayscale are huge fans of The Night Game. And Martin, the singer, so that he's singer Boys Like Girls and Night Game. So I feel like it's cool. Like you meet a lot of cool people and friends of friends and you get put in, like, there's so many like rooms where whether it's an airport or you're at a bar after, a writing session or whatever. And like, there's been a fair share of like, you're in rooms with people where you're like, it's some of them for me, like childhood, like people I really looked up to. I feel I don't normally get like super giddy meeting people too much, but Martin is like, he's somebody that we as a band, like as a writer, we just respect so much, both for Boys Like Girls and The Night Game. Fans of both, The Night Game being the one that we obsess over, but so we're really, really excited to play with them, to meet him. I know we have a lot of mutual friends that work with Martin. I've never had the chance to do so, but Danon, who is one of the co-producers on this record that we just did, his name's Danon Rector. Danon also produced the newest Boys Like Girls record. So we've sort of shared a producer in terms of like the DNA of the record, which is a cool thing as well. On the last BOD album and the newest Grayscale record. So
I'm really excited about as you're on the tour.
What's that?
A lot to talk about as you're on the tour with them.
Oh yeah. 100%.
A lot of connections.
100%. A lot of connections. So yeah, for sure.
You have a Justin Bieber cover that's pretty popular.
Yeah.
Do you have any covers planned do you like doing covers? Do you have any planned for this tour?
No, I mean, we do like doing, it's funny you said that. We actually covered Panama by Van Halen at our last holiday show in Philly, and Andrew, our guitarist, said, I'll email you or text whatever. I'll shoot you. Like there's like for some reason he just sent like the 4K full performance of it for no reason this morning.
That sounds like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was awesome though. They love Van Halen. Dallas and Andrew, our guitarists, like are obsessed with Van Halen. So it's so funny, like those conversations when you're in a rehearsal room and you're prepping for the holiday show. It's like, or any show that we're considering a cover, which normally is our holiday show. We'll just be like, what about this one? Like, there's been some terrible cover ideas thrown around, but
what's the worst cover you've done?
That's a good question. Oh man, I mean, the really bad ones you haven't heard. I think we tried an AC/DC one. It might have been the one that we replaced with Panama, but I think we tried. You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC, and that song, like, just us doing it, it just wasn't it? It was just funny. It was like so ridiculous. Like, yeah, it was hilarious. It was bad. So we pulled the plug on that one.
That's hilarious. Yeah. What's probably the best cover you feel like you've ever done?
I don't know. It might be Panama, man, because we ripped that at soundcheck a lot just for fun. More like warming up or whatever. So like, or when we're soundchecking before shows every day during tour, because it gets monotonous. Like you're checking in every venue, you're playing the same songs. And that's kind of where the Panama thing started. And then we just, yeah, I would say just because of how many repetitions we got, just doing it out of boredom on tour, sound checking, Ripping Van Halen, I think I'd probably say that was the tightest one.
I think it would be a great idea to have like Panama playing before you walk out on stage, and then you walk out playing Panama.
Yeah. Oh, well, part of what I was saying before my phone died in the middle of our interview, even though I thought I charged it, was when we did the Holly show, we had a little intermission where our guitarist Andrew left and put on a Grinch suit and had this whole bit and came back out and actually played the whole song, which is like obviously intricate guitar part, like in this Grinch suit. He could barely like see anything out of the mask. So it's just funny because it's just like four normal guys like playing the song and then just
the Grinch.
And Andrew's like a big, like he's muscular, like whatever. He's like just a big boy, and he's like in this orange costume that he's like can barely fit in. Dude, it's so funny, hilarious.
I think the question everyone's going to ask afterwards was it the Jim Carrey Grinch?
It was, yeah. His whole bit. He did the whole thing, like tiptoeing like around the stage and stuff, like being like ridiculous. So yeah,
let's talk about merch. So you guys have a really cool way of doing merch, and your merch seems like it's, you know, more high quality. It's different. It's not just, you know, black Gildan tees with a little print on that. When did you start doing that? Why did you start doing that?
I think the beginning, it was like, we just wanted to make things that were quality for fans. Was really where it started. It was like, I just don't want people to buy a Grayscale shirt and then it like wash it twice and it fall apart, you know? So it was kind of just like, and like, I love clothes. Like I love clothing. Like I always have. I have a friend, Chris, who owns like a vintage shop in Philly that like, him and I kind of like started that like in the early phases together, kind of, building that. And he's like running a full thing. So I actually worked at Urban Outfitters, which is headquartered in Philly. I worked in like the corporate office before I dropped out of school, like as like an internship role before I dropped out and toured full time. So I've always loved that kind of, like, just like, I wouldn't say I love like fashion, but like I've always loved clothing. And, yeah, I just wanted to do something higher quality and like put more time and energy into sourcing the right garments and the right design. We'll have things that people can like wear and really love to wear versus just like, you know, like I never want things to feel like an impulse buy at a merch table where people will leave and they're like, why did I get this? Like, this is whatever. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of where it started. And then like, you know, it's just been a thing from then. And our motto has always been like, we never print the same. We don't restock anything. We don't print the same thing twice. Like, you know, there's times where we'll have like a certain colorway available in Europe and or UK tours versus America. Like there's that kind of thing. But beyond that, we don't really repeat anything. We really take our time and find the right garments. It was tough during like COVID when there's so many supply chain issues where nobody could get anything. So that was like put a little bit of a pause on things like the merch world for everybody for a bit, but it's cool to be able to now, you know, to get back to it and really like, I would say it's just like an extension of the whole operation of like, you know, of wanting to make, you know, obviously the music and the visuals most importantly, but then the merch too, like being part of the whole picture. That's something that like I've always really loved doing. So yeah, it was like Forbes did an article on it, which was really cool. Like from like the business side of things. So it was like a really always been like this extra little layer thing that's been like a fun extension of the band.
And I mean, I personally love the idea because I'm someone that loves going to shows and I want to walk away with something. I want to support the band. I want to buy some merch.
Totally.
You know, but there's nothing worse than going and supporting a band, you know, taking home a shirt and then it's uncomfortable. It doesn't fit right after one wear. It's garbage, you know. So I like the idea of higher quality merch, and I'm one of those types of people that like I'm willing to pay an extra $5-10 to upgrade that quality. Now I know band merch can already be expensive, but there's another side of that, and there's another type of music fan that disagrees with everything that I've just said. Do you find that, you know, you've received a little bit of a bit of backlash in terms of like charging higher prices for higher quality stuff, or are most people sort of on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people are on board. There are people like there is some like pushback from, look, we've gotten it before, but it's just, I mean, I think it's the same thing that people that just in general outside of merch, like the way that they, buy their clothing, some people, it's like it's just strictly whatever is the least expensive and, which is fine. Like there's obviously if that's like what people want to do and how they want to do things, but it's just, I think like, um, I think most people get it. I think some people don't, but they're welcome to buy whatever they like of whatever other band. And I feel like we've done a good job of keeping things like, well, you can have a really thick hoodie with like embroidery and decked out and it can be expensive. And then I feel like we've always tried to provide an option like, okay, well, this is like, while this garment it isn't like the super, like the lowest quality, it's still a higher quality garment. It's a simple, like one-sided print, one color design where it's not overly expensive to print. Therefore, we don't like, while it's more expensive than the average quote unquote shirt, it's not outrageous. It's not outrageously expensive. Like I feel like we try to keep
charging
the same
$200 for a t-shirt.
Right. I feel like we try to keep a similar margin for every piece that we do. Like it's kind of been our like ethos of like, okay, like we want to kind of, this is like the difference of what it costs and to print and to make. And that's kind of what we've always stuck to versus being like, we're trying to make 80% margin on it. Like, it's like, we're never trying to do anything like that. It's always been like, what's the highest quality we can do and still be able to like, still have it make sense business wise. But like, never is it like, I've been like this, like, we're going to try to make a slam dunk on the margin of things. It's never been that way. So, but that's like, I don't know, this is out of like honesty and transparency of like what we want to do. Cause we want to make high quality shit, but we don't want to make it where no one can get it either. So it's a balance, and it's been harder. Like, as far as, like I mentioned, like post pandemic and the pause that put on so many industries that made things weird, but it's been cool. Like we did for this mum drop, we did like a merch drop around the mum song. We did like these custom little lockets that we made, or these little pendants, necklaces that we made. So it's cool too, to like not only just do t-shirts or hoodies where we focus on the quality, but also like accessories and things kind of outside the box a little too.
So I noticed that. I noticed the little pendants that you had for Mother's Day. I also noticed that as of right now, technically you can't buy any Grayscale merch on your website unless I just navigated it wrong, because all I saw was that there. Is it just like everything's a limited drop? Are we getting like a new drop soon? Did I completely misnavigate the website? Is there a section to go and buy a Grayscale t-shirt right now if I wanted to?
Yeah, there are. I mean, so the majority of like the stock, we generally do limited runs of everything and we don't restock or reprint anything. So you're not totally wrong. Like it is difficult to some capacity to get your hands on certain pieces. You can still go, like there still are pieces like available on the site from certain drops or certain one-offs or tour surplus, like that kind of thing. Like you still can go on the site now and buy it, but I think what you'll find when you go, it's merch.com/grayscalepa. And if you go on, there's a lot, it's linked in like our socials and everything. And we actually have our own Instagram account just it's just like shop Grayscale PA. It's all our merch stuff, but, you will find a lot of it is sold out, generally on the site. But there should be like a sort tab where you can click like, just show me what's available. And that should show everything that.
Okay. Then that is just me being a boomer and not navigating the site right.
No, you're right.
I think that's great. Is there anything else that's kind of going on in 2024 with you and with Grayscale that people need to know about that maybe we didn't cover?
I think we covered them. I think we have some West Coast dates later in the year, support dates. And then there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot at the end of the year as far as like new music and stuff. I don't know the exact stuff nailed down, but there'll be a lot coming for sure.
Sweet. I'm excited for it. Another thing that we do here on the show as we kind of wrap things up is we also give some love to some other, just some up and coming bands. Now Grayscale isn't really an up and coming band. I wouldn't call you guys an up and coming band, but we like to kind of spread the love within, the music scene and for other bands that are working hard that you feel maybe deserve a shout out. Is there anybody that you would have in mind?
Yeah, I would say, band called The Wildlife that I'm such a fan of, out in Nashville. They've played some shows with us. They're an amazing band. The Killins is a band that I recently discovered, Kilans. I think they're out of like Salt Lake. They're sick. Two, I'm trying to think of a third. Hardcastle is another band. some of my friends in an LA band called Hardcastle. It's like so sick. Heard some of the, they have like some unreleased stuff that I've heard. It sounds like Foo Fighters. It's like it's like this sick rock stuff. So yeah, those would be the three: the Wildlife,
Sweet.
Killins, and Hardcastle.
Collin, thank you so much for coming on the show today and chatting with me. Honestly, this was so much fun for me. It's cool. I'm obviously a fan of your music and of Grayscale and all of that. So it was really cool to be able to chat today. And I hope that you have a fantastic tour with Boys Like Girls. I'm really excited to hear this new album. And once again, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Vettese. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review.